Football made simple. Become great at your craft by finding ways to make it simple for those around you. This is the Coaching 101 podcast hosted by Findaway Productions with your co-hosts, Daniel Chamberlain and Kenny Simpson. What's up, coaches? This is the Coaching 101 podcast. I am Daniel Chamberlain. That is Kenny Simpson. Coach, we are venturing off into the halfway point of the season already.
Yeah, we've had 5 games in, and it's hard to believe. I mean, it's, we hope that we're going to make the playoffs here, so that will extend the season a little bit. But the regular season is halfway over in Arkansas, and I think it might be over halfway for some other states.
Yeah, I think we just finished week 4. Most people just finished their 4th game. Some people play on week 0, but then they have a bye week in there. So,
right.
I did see one team in my area picked up an 11th game. It's very strange. Never seen that before, but so that was kind of neat to see. But yeah, we're halfway through just about. Things are starting to come together. Most of Oklahoma, or all of Oklahoma, I guess, just started district play. And a lot of good matchups in that very first week. Kind of the season starts over. We got into district play at 1 and 2, but we like to punch up a little bit and go see, test our mettle. And this year, just like last year, I think we got in at 1 and 2 as well, getting into district play. So, season does start over. Everybody's 0-0, so it's nice we went out and got a win Friday night. So we kind of start the real season 1-0, which is kind of what matters.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we that's the way we kind of break our season apart is, you have summer, which is different at every state, and we're trying to do different things. And then you have non-conference, and kind of revs up a little bit. We had a big rivalry game during non-conference. We played a number 1 team in another state, so we kind of try to rev that up a little bit. But then conference is different, because now you're playing for, if you're a senior, you're playing for your football life. You're
Right.
playing to extend your season, to either get into the playoffs or to improve your seeding or to have a chance to win your conference. So there's all those big things that you can definitely tell the intensity kind of ratchets up a little bit. And then once you get in the playoffs, it ratchets up even more. So it's kind of how we look at ours is you break it apart: preseason, non-conference, conference, and then if you're fortunate enough, playoffs. So you kind of have 4 quarters really of how you're trying to break it apart.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you guys are off to a dashing good start. I've been trying to keep up from afar, obviously. Oklahoma, we have Squirtle. It's just like a little app that, everybody updates the games. You can go and see. What do y'all use? What does Arkansas use?
Most of our stuff ends up on Max Preps. I mean, I think there's other sites you probably put it on, but it ends up there. And that's usually where I'll go look at. Actually, if I'm looking to see how y'all did or someone else did, they tend to pull from all those and put them on there. So now we're blessed. We're 5-0 right now. We have a bye week coming up. We're really 1-0 in games that matter. Probably 2-0 because this bye week is essentially a forfeit from a team that is not going to play or drop to 8-man. So 2 wins in conference, you got to probably get to 3 to make the playoffs in Arkansas, 3 or 4. And then you get above that, you start to play for seeding. So that's kind of where we are right now.
It's good. It's a good place to be when you can start thinking about seeding instead of just trying to sneak in every year, right? It seems like
it's just the evolution of a program. I mean, that's where I was talking to my coaches the other day. It was, these kids that we have, and I've been before where, we were just trying to win a game. Just a game, and then you go to, okay, man, we might make the playoffs. Let's print shirts and print hoodies and win the playoffs. And then, hopefully the next evolution is now you're playing, like you said, to win that championship. And the problem with that, I'm starting to learn, is like we don't really know how to celebrate wins with our kids anymore. And I thought it was a big win. We played a good conference team. We played them at home. We played about 3.5 quarters of really good football. Ended up winning pretty comfortably. We still won comfortably, but weren't real happy with a few mistakes we made late to kind of let them score a few meaningless touchdowns, but wasn't real happy with that. And so at the end of the game, we got kids that are not really even happy. Like, guys, it's hard to win. It's okay to celebrate tonight because it's hard to do some of the things you did. But but we've got the mindset of our kids has become, how can we be better? How can we be better? Which is good, but there are times you got to say, hey guys, it's okay to, take an evening to enjoy your win, and we'll come back and fix things for the next week. And so it's been interesting for me the last 2 years to kind of see that mindset. These are big wins for our program, and we're in a place we've not really been. But I also don't want them just to. It's almost like you're running through your schedule. Guys, we're halfway done. I hope you're starting to enjoy a little bit because it's going to be over quickly.
I guess that's kind of a problem with, when you want to get to those district games, right? And you, as a coach, sometimes you have to. I mean, like I said, we're 1-2 coming out of non-district. You kind of have to act like they don't matter, so it's just kind of flush it and go on. But man, that is some senior kids. That's 30% of his guaranteed games, right? Yeah. So it's like you have to be careful as a coach to don't linger. We came out of week 1 with a huge victory in it, and it cost us in week 2, right? The practice was down. So you can't let them dwell in a victory either. But man, it's a thin line to ride, right?
That's tough. I mean, it's just one of those deals where I don't really know the correct answer to that stuff. I feel like for us winning games, our kids have a great mindset because I know we won, but we got to get better at X, Y, and Z. I'm like, okay, can we wait till Saturday to talk about that?
Absolutely.
Let's try to enjoy it tonight and talk about it on Saturday. And so it's a balance. It's a balance because I think you hear it from guys like, we're not anywhere near there. So I don't want you to think that I'm saying we're here. But like Nick Saban would say that like the wins weren't as sweet. He just basically was relieved that they didn't lose.
Yeah.
And I really don't want to get to that. Like I don't want to get to that at the high school level with our kids. I want them to enjoy winning.
Yeah, I think it seems like looking back over your last couple of seasons, you've got a bunch of wins lined up, right? What was it, 14-1 last year? So you're 19-1 in your last 20 games.
Yeah, this group they haven't lost many. It's a good group of kids.
So, all right, we'll quit fluffing your feathers for you, Coach. Sorry, okay. I think you're doing an amazing job over there. So anytime I get to talk about it, I sure as heck do. Let's get our quote of the week, and then we'll move on with conversation.
Sure. Quote of the week, again, coming out of Team Themes. This is volume 5. We have 5 volumes. We've been going through Team Themes with our kids. Our kids still really enjoy it. So I know it's a effective thing. If you're not doing some kind of extra thing with your kids, you need to be. And then we offer Team Themes volumes over at fbcoachsimpson.com, and there are a lot of other books you could pick. But whatever you do, you need to be doing something with your kids. So the quote for the podcast is from Steve Kerr, basketball coach. It says, ambition in sports isn't about being the best at all costs. It's about being the best version of yourself, and for your team. Our word of the week for this week was competitive, and that was my word because I guess the coaches felt like I'm that guy. So I got to talk about it. Similar to ambition, we tried to bring it back to, I think, uber competitive people. They're not really comparing themselves to other people. And as I've matured, I've stopped comparing myself to other people. Instead, I'm comparing myself to where was I last year? Where was I last week? Yep. Where was I yesterday? And have I made improvements to myself? And I think the same can be said of ambition. People that are ambitious, it's not about comparing yourself to other people. It's about bettering yourself.
Yeah, it's a good one. That's a good one. I think we all struggle with that, especially. I was reading through like you shared something on Twitter about Tony Holler had shared someone's thing about, the 3 stages of coaching, and it ends with mature simplicity. Mm-hmm. But we all get to that where you're chasing complexity to be better than everyone else, to look better, to look smarter, and really you just got to be better than you were yesterday, right? Your kids just have to know one more version of your play or whatever it is that you're trying to teach. You don't have to add in a whole new playbook or change things drastically. Just, yeah. So I like it. It's a good quote. All right, man, let's jump into our ads real quick. Coach, if you don't mind, share some ways that coaches can make things simple for their staff and athletes. All right, if you're listening live, this is where we'll go into some digital ads later. Have you released dates for your clinics in the spring?
I just put it out, I think, on Twitter and in the Facebook groups. So, but they are out. I don't have them where people can sign up yet. I've got to get that built.
Okay, let me.
I think it would be on my Gun Tea account, probably.
Okay. Sorry for watching live. You can relax for just a second. We should have done. This is behind the curtain. It's how the sausage is made. There we go.
You find it? Okay.
I did. This looks like 2026. Okay, cool. Charlotte, San Diego, Batesville. Man, you're all over the place.
Oh yeah, trying to.
All right, let's do this. All right, appreciate that, Coach. Once again, guys, go back and listen to those ads. Look, the guys over at Ace and the guys over at Winning Edge Performance Analytics, two big sponsors, been with us for Ace has been with us for years now, and we're still pushing their stuff because it's still amazing. The WEPA guys, Doug, he still has a great product. I know it's his first year in business, and he's looking to get better. He's reached out to me many times asking for what improvements can be made to the system, and we're always troubleshooting it. So if you're looking for a way to kind of gain that edge and quit tagging your film on Saturday morning, I think that you can get over to Winning Edge Performance Analytics. Still get 20% off for this season, which is a great deal for them, for you guys, and to get into that product. Want to talk about the Gun Tea system. So we got some clinic dates finally released. If you're looking for a Gun Tea clinic in the spring, looks like you got Charlotte that first weekend in January, I guess the second weekend, 9th and 10th.
Yeah, that backs up to AFCA for guys that want to do both.
Absolutely. So you get in there. What is it? The Thursday, Friday before, and then
we're Thursday. No, we're Friday, Saturday because AFCA is Sunday. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So looks like Charlotte, San Diego, and then the home station going back to Batesville. That's your first three. 2 in January, and the first one's that first weekend in February. Mm-hmm. So you can kind of look into those. And it says you got a 5 days, set February 2nd through 7th.
No, that's a mess up. I gotta get
okay, good, because I was about to say, man, like
it's gonna be a long clinic.
Yeah, it's gonna be a long clinic. Anyway, it is released out on. Coach has got it out on his Gun Tea on Twitter. I'm sure it's on the Facebook. It's all over. So go check out what dates you like. You can't quite sign up for them yet. That'll be opening up pretty soon, though. So just figuring out which one you can go to and talking to all your buddies and everybody get to the same one. That's where we're at right now. So check out the Gun Tea Clinic. Coach, let's talk some trips or 3x1 or 3x0, however you want to call it, passing concepts. I think as we get through this, the questions I'm going to have, how much can you do out of this out of 10 personnel versus 11 versus 12? And so as we go through, I'll be asking those questions. How do we tag this back to what we do? Because you're in almost like a 12 personnel all the time, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm sure that some of it works. So yeah, it'll be good. But first and foremost, we're just talking about what your favorite trips passing concepts are.
Yeah, there's a ton of them. And like you mentioned, I think people like these because any offense can run them. We get a lot of trips, nub or motion to it, or a lot of people running, that are running 10 personnel can run this stuff. People that are running, wing D can run this stuff. You're going to have to get to a version of trips, however you get to it. And there's lots of ways you can get to trips. You can motion to them, bunch trips. There's all these things. And it's a big deal because it really, to me, it unbalances the defense and it causes defensive coordinators to have to make adjustments. One of the first adjustments they make is the trips adjust. So depending on the coverage you get, it can be a very favorable thing. So just a few things that I know that we do. Everybody probably runs some version of flood or levels. However you want to get to it, where you have a vertical route, you have a deep out, and you have some short out, like maybe a shoot route or whatever. I know we're going to talk about that on the next question, so I won't spend a ton of time here. But everybody has some version of, we just call it flood. It could be levels, whatever you want to call it. Most people have some version of snag or some kind of curl where you're bringing the number one receiver inside, taking one of the inside receivers on an out route and taking the third guy deep, where you're basically picking on really the outside linebacker. Like whatever that roll down guy is, if he takes the out route, you're trying to throw that curl slant in the hole. If the corner were to drive it, then you have some kind of deep route, like a corner route. So lots of options there. I think a lot of people run those two concepts. I know we run those two concepts. Then you have versions of like wheel. There's lots of versions of wheel where it could be wheel from number 2, wheel from number 3, where basically your outside receiver's running some kind of end breaker, be that a post, a curl, a dig, whatever. One of the other 2 guys is running probably some kind of out. And the third guy's running the wheel, where you're trying to hit the deep shot. Again, if you don't like it, you're coming back to the curl. Those are easy concepts to teach. Again, not very difficult. If you're going to run trips, you're probably running some version of a pick play, some version of a rub play for man beaters, where it might be, 1 and 2 are running in routes, and number 3 is running kind of a walk-off out route to pick their defender and throw the little shoot. Or it could be the other way. You could take 2 and 3 and they're running out break routes. One's kind of walk off and he's running the in break route to pick them off for that one. Everybody's got some version. We call it rub. You could call it pick, whatever you want to call it. You got to have a man beater if you're going to run a lot of trips, because you will see man. So how
especially
are
you
you
get into RPO system like yours, right, Coach?
Right. That's the hope, Then you can see like verticals. There's different ways you can run verticals or choice routes out of trips where, you're going to bring one guy across the field on the vertical, and then the other 2 can run like a switch concept or whatever it's going to be. But you're basically running 3 verticals on the hashes and on the number. However you want to get to it, that's what you're running. And then the final one a lot of people will run is like stick. So like stick, where you're basically taking number 2 and number 3 receivers, the inside guys. One's running an outbreaker, one's just running a hitch. You get that zone coverage where you can put the ball in a little hole right there, read the outside linebacker. So there's a lot more concepts you could run. There's the drive concept if you kind of get deep into this world. Lots of concepts, but basically you're going to always have different levels picking on different defenders for whatever coverage you might see. What I like about guys that run trips a lot is the ones that are able to get to it different ways. Like we're going to motion to trips. The back becomes the third receiver, maybe on a flare route. Maybe I go tight end, like a tray set, where the tight end is the number 3. So it makes it tougher for the defense if you don't just line up in 3 dudes out wide. Like they're going to have an adjustment for that. How are you getting to that might change it, where you might get a more favorable look? I think that's where I think the creative guys do well. It's not that they have new plays. Everybody's running those same concepts. How are they getting to those plays? I think that's where you kind of see really good offensive coordinators shine.
Yeah. The lack of overall plays from any football set is pretty astounding. You just kind of fall in one tree or the other, right? You're the air raid guy, or you're the old mirror route guy, or you're like the run and shoot. Like there's not a lot outside of that. So when you're talking about how to get to them more creatively, I think that's wonderful. You start doing motions and shifts, and with the hides, all the hide routes have been gotten really popular the last couple of years, and it seems like it's kind of the same thing. You just talked about trying to get number 3 loose on a wheel and a bunch of in breakers, but now that number 3 comes from the other side as a tight end and leaks across. Right now we call it a tight end leak or a hide or whatever, but it's all just kind of the same stuff that people have been running. We're just getting there a neat way. The stuff that Coach is talking about is mainly what we're going to talk about on the podcast today. We do run quite a bit of the air raid offense in our passing game, and which is why I wanted to have this conversation with you, because we're always looking for, like, how do we simplify this down? How do we quit trying to read? Because Kurt Warner, right, is a guy we've been Coach Warner or Mr. Warner, I guess.
Kurt Warner is his name.
That's right. Come on the podcast, man. The email's out there. So if you guys know him, shoot him our way. We'll resend the email pretty soon. But he's obviously an amazing quarterback, and he still is always harping on the fact that you can't read 5 reads.
No.
And he's huge on like 1 to maybe 2 reads, like a pre-snap and a post-snap. And so if you take this air raid concepts, this idea that we're going to go out and read the whole field, we're going to make the defense defend every blade of grass. But how do you do that with a kid who can't tie his shoes still, right? You got to teach him which side his knee pads go on, and then I'm expecting him to go out and read 5 reads or even 3. It just gets really difficult. So always looking for ways to simplify ball back down and And so that's what this episode's for, is just take all the chaotic stuff we like to do, and I want to see how Kenny does it and see what we can match. Jump into the second part here, Coach, and it's how are we teaching flood? So this is a really funny question because there is an air raid team over in the state of Arkansas. A good buddy of mine's over there, and he hit me up last year sometime and just said, how the heck do you teach flood? And I was like, well, here's what we run. And just the simple flood. 1 vert, 2's intermediate, 3's usually your flat man. It's all about timing and space. Mm-hmm. He's like, okay, I was just making sure I'm not crazy, because he's getting, taught a different way to run it now. So there is more than one way to skin a cat here. But Coach, how do you teach flood?
Yeah, there's more than one way to get it, but ultimately you're going to have 3 levels. You're going to have a deep route. Generally, that's going to be just a go route, or sometimes we've made that like a skinny post, but some kind of vertical route. And most of the time, that's going to be run by number 1. And not always. Like you said, there are lots of ways you can do it. Anything in our offense we can just call switch, and the receivers just switch responsibilities. But the base way we would teach it would be our number 1 runs some kind of vertical. And again, depending on who that kid is, what that coverage is, it could be an outside release go, or it could be a skinny post. Number 2 for us is usually going to run the intermediate route. We, at the high school level, try to teach that at 15 yards. And so we will teach like an outside release with number 2. We tell them to get in the trail, basically get behind number 1. That helps the timing a little bit.
Yep.
And then at 16 yards, slam the brakes on, and you have the out. You want to be as close to the sideline as you can, because in our read, we're trying to pick on the corner. And if you just run straight 15 yards and turn right or left, a lot of times a really good safety, he can cover that. But if you can get closer to the sideline on your release, outside release, that makes it really difficult for a safety who's playing on the hash to get over and play that route. Or if they switch it, safety corner, then you have the chance to throw the go ball. And then we usually would teach some version of what we call a shoot route or a speed out, or however you want to call that, about 2 to 3 yards out. The way we will teach that is that's our hot read. We run flood off rollout. You don't have to, but we prefer it off a rollout because we think it marries well with what we're trying to accomplish. Now, I do think the protection matters on rollout, because we're teaching the shoot route is the hot route. We don't block the edge with our running back. We used to. We'd send him to the edge. He would block the outside linebacker. If our kid missed the shoot route, which he sometimes does, defenses now were spinning the way we would play it too. They're taking the inside linebacker on rollout, and he's becoming the edge player so they can get their edge player into coverage.
Yeah.
And so they were taking away the hot route. Inside linebacker was sacking us because that's hard to pick that up. So we actually send our running back to the inside backer. Now, that block may happen on the edge, and often it does. But he knows I've got the inside backer because our quarterback has got to read outside backer is hot.
Yeah.
If he comes, ball's got to come out, So we'll do that, and we like to roll out because that gives you the run option. And with our quarterback this year, and he's a pretty good little runner. And so that kind of puts a lot of pressure on you as a defense, is if we're blocking inside backer with our running back and you're covering with your outside backer, he can run that ball a lot. So we teach it to read the corner. We read the corner we're reading deep to short. So we roll out. We're looking at the corner. If he turns the go loose, rip it. Take it, rip it. You got to make him pay for that. We got to be able to throw that ball. Okay. Most of the time, corners are going to carry the vertical. Not all the time, but most of the time. They'll carry the vertical. As soon as we see him turning and running to carry the vertical, we know we're probably throwing that deep out route. And that's a timing-based route. So 15 yards kind of marries well with rollout, because by the time he's getting his hips ready and all that stuff, that guy's at the top of his route, and we're throwing the ball before he breaks. So we know he's breaking at 16 yards, and we're throwing that ball at 15 yards to the sideline. So that's a timing-based route. If we have pressure in our face, we know we're taking a hot route right now. So that's kind of how we teach it. And then, of course, if we don't like anything, theoretically, should be able to run the ball. Like if they've managed to cover it all up, should be able to run.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much that's the way that most people are teaching it, and I love it. Like it's just number one, you get the rollout, which is fantastic because most of our quarterbacks at these smaller schools aren't throwing that vertical from the pocket. You know what I mean? And so it really eliminates a route out of the read before you even get started. So that's what I really like the rollout, and just adding a kid +1 in the run game. Right? We're always +1 in the run game if we can be. So I think the rollout really does marry well, like you said. Do you just have to tag it? You got to call it if you want to throw to the backside guy, like to your solo side on a curl or a drag or something?
Yeah, we can tag it, and we have some wrinkles. So like if you're following stuff, we can bring guys back across, kind of like leak type plays. So we have some backside screens or backside, throwback type plays. So we can tag that if we want it, because you will get teams that play us, they're going to spin their coverage. So that play is usually, you're going to get that once or twice a game.
Yeah, absolutely. So flood, I mean, that's basically how it's worked for the teams I've been with. And I think it's a wonderful concept. What about snag, coach? How do you get to snag from the same,
Yeah, we're snag for us. We want to be in the pocket. So snag for us, we want to be in the pocket. But essentially for me, snag is a little bit different. We're going to run some type of corner route with our number 2. We prefer it with our number 2 just because of personnel. It doesn't have to be him, but usually it is him. Number 3 is going to continue, inside receiver. It's going to continue to run that shoot route. It keeps it really clean and simple for that player. Often for us, that player is kind of an H-back type kid. We don't really want him running a corner route. So it kind of marries well. And then for us, we're teaching our X to run essentially a glance type look where he's going to push vertical about 4 to 5 yards, and then he's going to work in on what looks like a slant. And then we want him to settle in the hole. Quarterback for us, same read. Now we're in the pocket a lot of times with this, but he's going to read the corner. If the corner doesn't backpedal, so if on the snap of the ball, the corner's jumping the X, the outside receiver, then we know when that back foot hits the ground, we're throwing the corner. If we're going to throw the corner, we're going to live with our slot versus your safety on a corner. We're going to take that ball. If the corner backpedals, when our back foot hits the ground, our eyes should move to the outside linebacker. We're reading him. If he covers the shoot, then we know we're taking that X in the hole. If he sits, then you'll work out and throw the shoot late. Most of the time we run this concept, we're throwing the corner or we're throwing the curl. We're willing to throw whatever you give us, but that's kind of how we teach it. I've seen guys teach it where the guy doesn't stop. He just continues running like a slant almost, or can walk him off. I've seen people run it inverted, where they'll run the X on like a post corner, and the A will run kind of the sit there. So there's lots of different ways you can get to snag. I think snag's a very good play. It works against really any coverage because it's essentially, if you get man, you're going to throw the corner. If you get cover 2, you're probably going to throw the corner. If you get cover 3, cover 4, you're probably going to throw the curl. But you can always teach it the same. Read the corner. Like if the corner doesn't bail, we know we're throwing our corner route. If their cornerback bails, we're going curl, shoot, which is a really easy concept. And same thing with flood. I mean, I think both those concepts are good because you can run them against really any coverage and teach it pretty close to the same way.
How much does your teaching change week to week if somebody has a D1 corner out there that has amazing recovery speed and he can kind of make himself right, do you take that route away? Do you just teach your quarterback, hey, we're wasting a route here, read this other guy? How do you handle that?
No, I mean, a lot of times it's what is he doing? I mean, the coverage is more important. Now, we're not going to be, we don't want to be dumb and throw at a guy, but most of the time, if that guy's in man, we can tell before the snap who we're throwing the ball to, and it's probably not the guy he's covering.
Right.
If he's in zone, then we're going to read it like it'd be any zone. We're trying to make sure our spacing is good. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to try to run it to the other side if we can.
For sure. We've gotten, we take all of our past concepts and see what they look like versus each week's opponent, which, everyone's doing, right? You got to go out and game plan what's going to work this week. We've tried a lot of different things. We've gotten into R4 stuff here lately. Dub stuff is really good at just understanding what's open pre-snap, and I think it helps quarterbacks learn to read a defense. You're just teaching them which column is open deep, but they start understanding what does cover 2 usually pre-snap look like, and 3 and 4 and et cetera, right? So it gives them a little better understanding of how to read defenses. And of course, as a coach, it's astronomically better than not studying anything. It's really, really good stuff.
We do. We call those probablys, but it's a lot of dub stuff. It's before the snap. Look out there. Probably what am I throwing based on their alignment?
Yes. Yeah.
I would say one other thing, how you get to trips can determine the coverage you're going to get. I think a lot of coaches don't pick up on that. Like if you line up in trips, you're going to get these 2 or 3 checks. You might not like those checks. What if you shift to it or run it from the backfield or motion to it? So a lot of times those are different coverages. Like if you line up in trips versus motion to trips, shift to trips, or make your running back become number 3.
Yeah.
So that's what we look at is we're going to run those concepts. But if I get a concept I like with twins, like I like their coverage versus twins, we know we're going to motion to trips every play. Like that's how we're going to get to trips that week. Yeah. If we like their trips checks, we're going to line up in trips. So I think that's an underrated thing you can do as a coach is how are they getting to their trips checks?
Yeah, for sure. And getting your kid on a shoot that's got a little speed and he's already on the runs is nice too, right? Like if you can bring a guy in motion and
or a lot of times
you talked about your T or your whatever you're calling your tailback, can kind of be the flare route to go be the short. Right. But now it's a guy that's coming in motion from the other side. I mean, there's so many great ways to do that.
Or a lot of defenses, empty checks are very favorable to throw to the trips. So you can get to trips and empty and maybe get looser coverage. And now those same concepts are a little more open.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's jump in this last spot. And so I kind of want to work through the way that a lot of people are picking their quarterbacks nowadays, coach, is just getting the best athlete on the team, snap the ball to him. Because even if whether he's chucking the ball out there to somebody else or he can keep it and run like you talked about earlier, it's a lot more favorable. It's advantageous for us to have the best dude on the field touch the ball every snap. And so I kind of want to talk about these reads and these passing concepts. How do you simplify all this back down for that kid who's just get it, run it, and you might even be like 70% just run the ball. If it's open and it's easy, throw it. Versus like if you get a kid that's advanced, I think a couple of times the last few years, you've had some kids that could actually read a little bit. What do you change up for those kids?
Well, we never changed that we're reading defenders. I mean, you talked about Kurt Warner in the start of the show. I mean, as a Hall of Fame quarterback, and no offense to Kurt, but he wasn't a runner. And if he's reading 1 or 2 defenders and in the Hall of Fame, I don't really know if we need to make it worse than that. Like I don't. That's one thing that like for me when I read some of the other guys' stuff is some things help quarterbacks, some things complicate it, make it harder, and you got to know as a coach which is that. I'm a big fan of reading 1 defender, like read 1 guy. I think any kid on this planet can read 1 guy and make a decision off of that guy. So regardless of our football IQ, athletic ability, whatever, we think all our quarterbacks, I mean, I'm about to walk out there with 7th grade practice. We're starting to teach them RPO game. Hand it or throw it based off of this 1 guy. So we're going to teach that starting regardless of our kid. And I'm not a big read the space on the grass. And that stuff matters. But ultimately, your eyes need to go to defenders, because they're going to determine where the ball should go. So we always want to read a defender. Now, pre-snap, you read whatever you want to. I'm a big fan of as our kid advances, it may go, okay, like snag to me, you kind of got to read two defenders. You got to read the corner first, then you got to come off him and read an outside backer for your throw. So that to me is we're reading defenders, but we're really reading two defenders. So to me, we may not run snag a whole lot with an athlete back there that's not real comfortable in the pocket. He may just run flood, or he may just run, roll out. I've got this option, or run it. Neither one's bad. I think the other thing you can look at, athlete versus non-athlete, or young quarterback versus old quarterback, is pocket management. Like this year for our kid, he's sophomore, starter for me last year, an all-state honorable mention type athlete. Okay, but we probably threw the ball from the pocket not very much, maybe 3 or 4% of the time. And those were 1, 2, 3, ball out, no read. Like that's what we were throwing with him from the pocket. But we were getting him on the edge and running RPO stuff, and he's pretty good. Well, he's advanced this year. So now we're able to throw from the pocket, because now I've got to be able to keep my eyes upfield, maneuver a pocket, and come off one read to another, and have the arm talent to make the throws required. So I think if you're looking at, I've got a young quarterback this year, coach. He's a good athlete. Doesn't read it real well yet, but he's one of our best athletes. Well, we're going to run rollouts. We're going to run play actions. We might run reads with him. Like I can hand it or I can run it. Not as, now I've advanced my quarterback. And now we're going to run more RPOs because we want him reading as many things as possible. We're going to throw from the pocket more, and we're going to give him a couple 1-2 reads. 1-2. Like I'm not a big fan of trying to go 1, 2, 3. That's tough at any level, And those guys that run air raid, they teach it differently, but they're still maybe reading two guys. You're going to run Y cross. You're going to read, the overhang outside backer. Whatever it's going to be, your eyes still should go to defenders. I'd encourage anyone listening to the podcast, whether you throw it 90% of the time or you throw it 10% of the time, on your throws, teach your quarterback to put his eyes on whoever you're wanting him to read. Trying to read, you start using words like leverage and space and all that stuff. It's good. But when the crap hits the fan, he's reading a defender. If this defender does X, I do Y. And it can't be, I got to read X, Y, Z, and the next one. It needs to be X and ball out, or X, Y, ball out. If you've not played quarterback, there's a lot of crap happening, a lot of stuff going on, and it doesn't look as good as it does when you draw it on a whiteboard. I got to maneuver a pocket. I got to handle a different look than we thought we were going to get. I need to know, where do I look and where can I get the ball out? And I think as coaches, that's our job. What's my hot route? What's my read? Make it easy. I think a lot of times for us, your job as a coach is to make it easy on your quarterback, not put in cool plays that are requiring him to do a lot of things. I don't care what talent level they are. That's your job. And the second part of your job is to match what he does well with what you call. We've had quarterbacks before. I know it's 3rd and 15, and we'd like to throw a pass from the pocket. He doesn't do that well. So let's get him on the move, give him a 1-2 run. And I know we might have to punt, but that's better than throw from the pocket and take a sack or get a pick. So our job is to protect our quarterbacks. When our quarterbacks don't play well, I think that's a reflection on you, not a reflection on them. Like your job is to give them plays they can be successful at. Because I've had to call plays before where I felt like my hands were cuffed. Like I see it. I know it's there. We can't do that. And that's hard as a coach because everybody in the stands is letting you know it's there. And I see that it's there. We can't do that.
Right.
So call plays that we can do and make that kid as successful as he can be.
Yeah, I love it, man. Well, Coach, I think we checked all the boxes today. We'll knock out into here in the situation of the week, which I didn't fill in.
Okay.
Well, I guess let's just do a lesson of the week. You got a lesson for the week, Coach?
Yeah, I can even do a situation for you because we kind of
Okay.
came across this. We're working on this during our bye week. So situational awareness with your kids. How do you teach that? Like, how are you teaching that? I'll give you a good situation from our most recent game. So we're up 20 with about a minute 20 to go. We can't take a knee yet. So we're trying to run the clock out. Have you worked that with your kids? I went back and I think we've kind of worked it a little bit with our kids, but we somehow managed to miscommunicate from the sideline. It's our fault to run a play we've never run. We're going to, and with a minute 20 in a game, when the game's basically over, 1 first down and it's over, and we try to run speed sweep double handoff, which doesn't exist in our offense, but somehow the kids thought we signaled it out there to them. So it resulted in exactly what you imagine it would result in. We fumbled the ball. They picked it up and ran it for a touchdown and still won the game. So it's not like it's the end of the world, but what if we were up by 7? That would have been very different. So we're spending our week this week making sure that the end of practice on Wednesday, we handle offense, defense, and special teams of we're up. What are some things we want to make sure we do? Offensively, don't snap the ball until it's under 5 seconds. Don't run out of bounds. Don't commit a holding. Don't do anything that's going to stop the clock. Defense, nobody's behind us. Don't commit a penalty that's going to stop the clock. Defend the sidelines. Special teams, we don't want to kick it to their stud. We want to make sure we squib it on the ground on kickoff. If we are punting, what are they probably going to do? So you need to work this stuff in your practice. I talk about it here on the podcast, and we managed to screw the pooch. Luckily, we were up 20, not up 8 or 7, or that could have been disastrous. So continue to work that stuff in your practice. The best time in my experience is right there at the end of practice. You can do it, but working those random situations that are going to come up and making sure you're prepared. Because we had another bust on defense. It was 4th and 8. And we called a blitz with our Mike. Well, his name is Braden. That's my son. The outside linebacker's name is Drayden. So you can see where this is probably going. So it was Braden Edge. Well, guess what happened? Both kids blitzed off the edge, and they completed a hitch route right behind where they both were to convert 4th and 8. Not the kid's fault. Not really the coach's fault. But ultimately, it is our fault.
Right.
So now we're working on, okay, now your name is Simpson and your name is Hulsey, not Braden and Drayden, because that's a problem. So those little things you probably don't think about. We were lucky. We were up 34-8 when we made both those mistakes. So we can kind of laugh about it and fix it.
Right.
What if we were up 21-7 and we lost the game on that?
Yeah.
And so that's the stuff we're working on.
Yeah, those things happen. We have experience, unfortunately, in the last couple of weeks with exact, just miscommunication happens. Handling of the play or the clock at the end of a game when you're up it's simple on paper, much like the pass reads you just said earlier. It's very simple on a whiteboard. Sometimes in the game, things go a little chaotic. So
they can.
All right, man. Let's close it out here. Don't forget to go check out our sponsors, Ace Sports. You can email mark.bridges@acesports.com. It's a great time to get some of those Ace Sports reps into your stadium. Let them come see a home game and check out your environment. And they can kind of tell you what would look good in your stadium and how they can improve on things and help you raise buku of cash. acesports.com or mark.bridges@acesports.com if you want to email him directly. And then don't forget about Winning Edge Performance Analytics. Go to winningedgeperformanceanalytics.com. Sign up for that today. You get 20% off your first year. I am at Coach Chambo OK on Twitter /X. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. That's kind of it for now, man. In season, it's awful busy. So, Coach, where are you at?
All things FB Coach Simpson. Make sure you go on there and sign up for our email list. I've been sending out emails over the podcasts and blogs, and try to send out about 2 or 3 emails a week that is just free stuff. So if you haven't signed up for the email list, you probably want to, because you're getting, I think I did a free sideline management PowerPoint over at FB Coach Simpson. So trying to send out free stuff during the season. Of course, there's stuff that's more premium that you can pay for if you want, but it's all over at fbcoachsimpson.com. My email's fbcoachsimpson@gmail, and I try to make sure I respond within a day if you've got a question for us. We are always looking for guys that want to come on the podcast too. So if you want to come on, or you don't want to come on because you're nervous, but you have a show idea, we're also looking for that stuff.
For sure. Send it over. Podcast is at Coaching 101 Pod on Twitter/X. You can find us on all your favorite podcatchers. I want to thank you for being a listener to the Coaching 101 podcast. We hope you'll join us next week as we continue to make the complex more simple. Please consider subscribing to the show so you'll always know when the new episodes are out. We'll leave you with this. It's hard to beat someone who never gives up. No matter the situation, find a way.